This is Worldview and welcome to the program. In the year of 2015, we touched on a number of some hard-hitting current affairs. From wars to recession, from elections and new leaders, from the fluctuation of different currencies, and a whole lot of other politically related issues. As the year draws to an end, we'll recap and round up some of the topics we discussed. One such issue is the new Nigerian president-elect Muhammadu Buhari and his newly elected cabinet. For months, Nigeria was without a government, while President Muhammadu Buhari personally vetted his ministerial appointments as part of an election promise to combat corruption. Now, with a cabinet in place, he must bolster an economy hammered by falling oil prices and tackle the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast. Mr. Buhari has promised a slimmer and more efficient administration with huge investments in agriculture to create jobs and drive economic growth. Many Nigerians see him as a rare politician who can help transform the West African state by unleashing its full economic potential. Managing those expectations could well prove his biggest challenge. Now, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has described the appointment of his 36-member new cabinet as a milestone. He defended the lengthy delay in making ministerial appointments, saying he needed to put round pegs in round holes. Joining me in studio tonight to talk about it more is the AAPC member here in South Africa. That's Mr. Abbey Oguntuase. Good evening and thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me.
We are all talking about the cabinet that we have waited for months and months. And obviously, President Buhari took his time to select. And finally, we have a cabinet. And we're talking about the one position, though, out of all the 36 members that has been spoken about more, which is the finance minister's position, which went to Kemi Adeosun. Let's just talk about that.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation once more. Yeah, I think in Nigeria, regardless of whatever anybody is saying, one thing about politics is when people are doing something good, and some people didn't do it well in the past, they will try to condemn whatever you are doing. So the issue is, either we waited for 5 months or 6 months, the most important thing is that the people that Buhari brought into his cabinet now, they are very credible people. And I believe very strongly in my spirit that they are going to pronounce the change we are expecting in Nigeria. So many things has really gone wrong in Nigeria in the past. And for the man to wait for such a long time, he wants to write his name in a golden book. And to me, I think it's a very good idea. Because with the kind of team he brought up now, as a member of his cabinet, I can promise you in the next 6 months, Nigeria will be saying different tone, singing different tone entirely as well. And I believe as well that by the end of Buhari's tenure, the kind of change we have never experienced in Nigeria will surely come to play in Nigeria politics. Okay,
so now let's analyze some of the ministers that have been appointed, namely Kemi Adeosun, the finance minister, 40 years old, the youngest in the cabinet, and she's coming from Ogun State. Yes. What are her credentials?
Well, Kemi Adeosun, she was formerly a commissioner of finance in Ogun State. And I think she did a lot while she was in Ogun State. But personally, I thought Buhari would give her a minister of state for finance. I don't really know whether she has the capacity to really manage Nigeria economy. But to be honest, I think she has a BSc economics as first degree and in her background. But to me, it's not enough with the kind of situation we found ourselves in Nigeria.
You need somebody who's more experienced. We need
somebody who is more experienced, who is more exposed in that direction. You know, somebody who is very strong, who is also a strong character. One thing about Nigerian cabinet is whichever position you are being asked to handle, your character will play a lot. You know, being a woman, I know the former one was a woman, but a lot of things went wrong under the former one because we have a lot of disease, these things where things are not going on, and they tell us things are going on, things are going well. You know, at the end of their tenure, with all the loopholes, everything was exposed in a matter of a short period. But I think Kemi Adeosun, with a kind of a body language of Buhari and I also expect her to bring some economic team who are very strong, who have strong character, who are very good in, in putting policy together for us to have a very credible and very, we just need to do something in Nigeria that our economy needs to really go from where we are now. The bottom line in Nigeria is Nigeria is broke. And the president came out openly and said it.
Yes, which actually leads me to my next question, as to say that the challenge for the new finance minister is how to raise funding via domestic and obviously international debt markets, because there is no money. So where's the money going to come from?
There is no money, which is one of the reasons why the president streamlined the ministry from 42 to 24, because there was no money. And it is high time we Nigerians tell ourselves that there is no money in Nigeria economy. So whatever anybody needs to do to cut the cost of governance, we need to do it. That's why I'm saying the present Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, there is a lot in her pot to handle. And I pray for her personally that God give her the strength to handle it. Because that position is not something that is very easy.
Easy to handle.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Okechukwu Enelema, who was tipped to be the finance minister, initially most people thought he was going to be the finance minister, has been made Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. Do you think that is a suitable portfolio for him?
Well, it is, but I would have preferred him to be the Minister of Finance.
Why so?
Because he has more vast experience in that angle. Yeah, for him to be the Minister of Trade and Investment is also another angle that we also need in Nigeria, because we need to attract more investors from international to the country. And I think he has the capacity to do that. You understand my point? Mr. Okechukwu can do that. He can invite people. Because we need to diversify the economy of the country. Because the point now is oil is not even, it's not an area we should be even talking about now. Because initially, Nigerian government pegged their budget on $70 per barrel. As we speak today, oil is about between $45 and $48. So there's a problem. So we need people with a very vast brain who can diversify our economy. And one of the major people we need is the Minister of Trade and Investment. We need to go out of the country, attract people to the country. But for first and foremost, that's why the Minister of Finance she's going to play a very key role. Because if you are going to invite anybody to your country as an investor, and the economy of the country is not viable at that moment, and the Minister of Finance could not really, tell you things are going to improve in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, and there's no any investment we want to go to. Because if I am an investor and I'm not sure of the economy of a particular country, I also would want to go there.
How have the investors received this news of the new cabinet? How has been the investors' appetite after that?
It's too soon to really talk about the cabinet, in honesty. Sometimes you give some people a chance. Some people you thought they can't do anything, they can actually perform. But it's based on timing. We need time. We need to give them time for them to be able to show, yes, they can perform, no, they cannot perform. It's too soon for us to discuss about how the timing, because the timing is just too soon for that. Like I said, personally, I pray for all the ministers, not even only the Minister of Finance, because if one ministry is not doing well, it affects others, because all of them, they are like interwoven in the ministry. So I pray the Minister of Finance, God will give her the ability to really perform the way we want.
Mr. Fashola seems to have received one of the toughest jobs, the toughest portfolio to actually handle. He's now responsible for making sure that the Lagos state goes in the way that everybody's expecting it to: electricity, roads, name it, and a whole lot. How would you describe this particular portfolio? And is Mr. Fashola the right person?
In fact, I don't envy him, but I know, because of what he did in Lagos, I am not surprised that Mr. President will bring him more closer than most people. Mr. Fashola is someone that once he believes in what he wants to do, he doesn't look back. He goes for it. He's a go-getter.
Okay. But what did he do in Lagos State previously?
In Lagos, when Fashola was in Lagos State, number one, the crime rate was extremely reduced. The traffic was not as bad as we speak now.
Is it because of improved roads?
Because of the improved road, then the kind of strategy they put on ground, on ground for to ease the traffic, you know, to send away the armed robbers from Lagos. But now, as we speak, armed robbers, traffic, everything is back to Lagos. But when Mr. Fashola was on that seat for that 8 years, we that are Lagosian, we saw the difference. And I also pray for the present governor also, that things is also going to change during his era. But the bottom line is, Mr. Fashola, the ministry they gave to him, because I learned that the Mr. President actually put 3 ministries together to make Mr. Fashola the head, which is Ministry of Work, Housing, and Power. Those 3 things are the major things we need in Nigeria. Once there is light in Nigeria, our problem are 75% solved. Once there is road, our problem are 80% solved. And once there is house, our problem are 90% solved. So I know that Mr. President knows what he's doing for him to actually give those 3 ministries to Mr. Fashola to handle. And I strongly believe he will do perfectly well on that ministry.
He will do great.
Yes.
Okay, now, just touching on something else. President Buhari has defied predictions by appointing former Army Chief General Abdurrahman Dabazar as the Minister of Interior, while most people actually thought that he would be the Minister of Defense. The security issue is a very sensitive issue right now in Nigeria. What could have been the reason for that particular choice?
Well, you know, sometimes politics may play in here. But at the same time, I think where Mr. Dambasu is also being, as a Minister of Interior, is a good position. Because the war we are fighting in Nigeria at the moment is not war outside the country. It's a within war. And whoever is the Minister of the Interior, you know, they are the one that is controlling the custom, because my point is, those Boko Haram guys, where do they get those ammunition? How do they get them to Nigeria? It means our border are porous. It means the customer not doing what he's supposed to do. So we need somebody with a strong character to actually manage that ministry, to block the loopholes. Look at that, there was a particular time they said the guy was coming from Nigeria, they don't know how they got a visa. How can a terrorist get a visa to Nigeria and the Minister of Interior does not know about it? To me, it doesn't add up at all. So Mr. Dambasu, to me, because he's a very intelligent man, very, very intelligent. So with that, with the Mr. Dambasu as the Ministry of Interior and the other one as the Minister of Defense, the 2 of them, they need to collaborate together to work things out in terms of solving the issue of Boko Haram, the insurgency in Nigeria, because it's an internal issue. It's not that we are fighting war in Liberia, we are not fighting war in Congo. It's an internal war. So the Ministry of Interior needs to play a very key role, and somebody who has a very strong character needs to actually manage that ministry, like Mr. Dambasu. So I'm very, very, very optimistic. I'm very also hopeful that he's going to perform very well.
Things will change in that particular area.
Yes, yes.
Now, President Buhari has decided to keep the portfolio of the oil ministry to himself, saying that he would want to oversee that because a lot of money has been embezzled out of that. Over $20 billion has been missing, particularly from that ministry. And this is the engine that drives the economy. What is your comment with regards to that? Is it the best decision that can be made or otherwise?
To me, it's the best decision because we need somebody who is not absolutely corrupt has to manage that ministry. Mr. President himself was a former Minister of Petroleum during the military era. So, and he did very well. And that is why today nobody can hold anything against him in terms of corruption. So he needs to oversee the ministry because as we speak, before diversifying our economy, that is the major resources that bring money to the country. So if Mr. President himself does not really oversee that ministry, where whatever we are getting now is coming in, then there will be a major problem in future. So for Mr. President to want to oversee the ministry, personally, I appreciate him for that. He needs to oversee the ministry himself. He needs to know what is coming in this ministry and what is going out. Because as we speak, the dollar per barrel is about $46, $47. So the president who understands that position, he has occupied the position before. He was also former chairman of a petroleum trust fund. So he understands what the kind of game that plays in the petroleum industry. So he needs to manage it himself. But does this mean that
this will eliminate corruption totally, completely? In this cabinet that we're seeing, that there's so much hope that things will go, in a better way than what we saw during President Jonathan's administration, does it mean that in President Buhari's cabinet, corruption is eliminated completely? Is that what we are saying?
It's not possible. Even in America, you can't say corruption is eliminated completely. There's no way corruption can be completely eliminated, but it can be minimized. You know, when you are working in an organization, and you know that when you steal, there's a penalty. It's either you are fired or you are jailed. If you want to steal 5, 10 naira, you can say, okay, let me steal 2 naira. At least the 8 naira go to the pocket of the company. It is high time the present government in Nigeria needs to run Nigeria as like a company, not personal or not family business as usual. There is a problem on the ground. And the earlier we understand there's a problem on the ground and we hit the ground running, the better for us. But thinking corruption is going to be completely eliminated, I don't really agree with that. And I don't think it, not even the country where we stay in South Africa, you can't say corruption is completely eliminated, but it can be vastly reduced and minimized.
Okay, earlier we did speak about the Minister of Transport and Environment. Would you like to just give us an overview of that? Yeah,
Rotimi Amaechi is the present Minister of Transport. I actually love him in that position because he's someone that is very agile. You know, he's very up and running. He's very up doing. One of the things I learned about him when he was a former governor of Rivers State, I think they have 27 House members, and I was opportune to meet 21 out of 21 members, and the 21 of them spoke the same about him. That this is someone that will wake up early in the morning as early as 6 o'clock, even take a bike by himself, go to inspect a project. So we need people who are not lazy in that ministry, because our transportation system in Nigeria is very bad. Our railway, the past administration, they told us they went to borrow money from China, that they are doing the railway line, this and that. By the time they left the government, you can't see anything. So we need people. To me, people say Rotimi Amaechi is corrupt. To me, I don't see any corruption in Rotimi Amaechi, because if you have anything against Rotimi Amaechi, bring it to the table and let us have it that, okay, truly is corrupt. Don't start making noise under the table and tell us it's corrupt. Bring an allegation, bring your fact, bring your proof that it's corrupt. To me, Amaechi is not corrupt, and he did very well in Rivers State as a governor. Yeah, you can't be perfect in every angle. It's not possible. I know he did very well under education. He did very well in terms of building schools and so health sector. Yeah, the particular rail line started in Rivers State that it didn't finish. Number one, the economy of the country went down in between. And this person, Rotimi Amaechi, and the former president of the country, they are not in good terms. And one thing about Nigerian politics is that if you are not in good book of the present president, even your state can be denied allocation. It happened in the history of Lagos State. Thank God that Lagos State can stand on their own then. That was why they didn't really have such effect. So to me, Rotimi Amaechi, I actually personally I was expecting 2 ministries, either Ministry of Transport or Ministry of Works. Because I know for him to handle, he can handle it. He's somebody that doesn't take nonsense.
Okay, now before we go on a break, the Ministry of Education, do you think justice was done in that particular area?
Ministry of Education, the Adamu that was being as a Minister of Education, I don't really personally. This is a personal opinion. I think the prof who is the present Minister of Education state will have been the better candidate, because he has been a vice chancellor of a university, and for you to manage a university is like managing a state. It's like managing a province. So I can believe personally that the man will have done better as a Minister of Education. And Adamu is a columnist on education. So I don't really, but I don't know. I'm not condemning anybody that Mr. President put in one position or the other, but I'm just saying personal opinion that I would have preferred the prof as a Minister of Education than the Adamu is a columnist. We read about him long ago. He's a columnist on education. I don't really know. I don't know much about his background, but the professor who is the Minister of State for Education, we know his background. He's been a vice chancellor of a university. You know, he has done a lot of work in the past under education, which I think education is not a place you go as a market to buy and bring home. Education needs somebody who really understood what is happening in that sector. Education needs somebody who has the educational background, who has been like the prof who has been the vice chancellor of the university. You can't tell me he doesn't know anything about education, because if he doesn't, possibly something will have gone on when he was Yvonne Katsande of a university. But nevertheless, let's keep our fingers crossed and see what's going to unfold in the next 6 months.
What he can do. Okay, right now we'll take a short break. Stay with us. When we return, we talk more on Boko Haram and the security issues surrounding Nigeria. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Well, right now we are going to talk about Boko Haram, the issues that are surrounding Boko Haram. Is President Buhari's plan to actually quash the insurgency viable? Is it something that can be workable? They have a deadline apparently to have everything sorted, done and dusted with regards to Boko Haram by the 31st of December.
Yes, Mr. President has a very good plan to eliminate Boko Haram in Nigeria, but the only mistake I think that play out there is I don't expect him to have announced the deadline date for the military people that 31st of December is the deadline, because insurgency is not something you can give a deadline to. It's only God that knows when it's going to begin and when it's going to come to an end. That's the point. But well, Mr. President, but a lot of improvements is actually coming up. You can see that the issue of bombing has reduced compared to last month, 2 months. Yeah, has reduced. Yes, the issue of bombing has reduced. Because they are able to get the people that is supplying them food, supplying them petrol. And I think last week, one of the Boko Haram leaders was arrested in Abuja airport. He was traveling to Lagos. Yes, he was arrested. That so I'm sure the military intelligence people will get more information on how to get orders from him. But with the last 2-3 weeks, the issue of Boko Haram, I think, is really going down. And the military
could this be an indication that their leader, Abubakar Shekau, is somehow... There has been rumors that Abubakar is dead. They got him, but nobody really knows. There hasn't been any clarification coming out from the Nigerian security forces or the ministry, rather, saying that Abubakar Shekau has been eliminated. Is there any chance that he is still alive?
The chances that he's still alive is very much, and the chances that he's dead is also the same. But the issue is, if you notice, he has not been coming up on a videotape.
The last we saw of him was in Cameroon. When he was healing from the wounds.
There are two things that may happen about Shekau. It's either he's dead or he's alive. But one thing I'm very sure is maybe he's been injured by the bullet of the military and doesn't have the kind of power he used to. And the treatment as well, because you know he can't just go to a normal hospital to treat himself. One of them there has to treat him, so they may not have the equipment to really treat him. Maybe that has really weakened him, or probably the possibility that he's dead is also high, because for now we don't see him talking much. Unlike before, every three days he will release the video clips. I'm still alive. They think they can do this, they think they can do that. But I think I'm happy the way the Nigerian military kept silent over him, because to me, when they're talking more of him, they're celebrating him. And I don't see reason why they should even talk more of him.
Is that giving him an audience?
Is that giving him an audience? Because when you are giving him audience, you know you are making his head to be swelling. That, oh, okay, they still recognize me. To me, even if either he's alive or is dead, they should talk less about him. And let's see how they can quench the issue of Boko Haram completely. They just need to wipe them out. They should talk less of Abubakar Shekau.
Apart from Abubakar Shekau being a leader that we've all seen on television and heard of, is there any other leader behind this Boko Haram jihadists, this Nigerian jihadists? Who has funded?
I believe there are some private people who are sponsoring them that we don't know yet. Because the kind of, if you see the way they operate, they can't just operate without some backings. Because number one, where are they getting their funding from? Who is funding them? How do they get food? Because me and you know that if we don't eat in the next 2-3 days, politics will not be able to talk is very high. So which means they are still getting regular supply of food, they are getting regular supply of fuel for them to move, they are getting regular supply of ammunition. Because they can't tell me is the bullet they've been using for the past 2 years they are still using up to now. It's not possible. So there is a channel that is actually supplying them all those things that we don't know. I just think the military intelligence in Nigeria needs to really even do more of that. Because I believe if you want to kill a tree, the best thing is to uproot it from the root, not cutting the head. If you cut the head of the tree, automatically it's going to germinate again because you have not really dealt with the problem from the root. So the root to me is those people who are actually supplying them those things that are making them to attack the innocent Nigerian. A lot of millions of people have died in the Northeast. Why must it be that? And they call them Muslim, but I believe they are not Muslim because Muslim doesn't say you should go and kill anyhow. So, but the truth is, there are some private sponsors of Boko Haram that the Nigerian military are yet to discover. And I know very soon they are going to discover them and they are going to expose them. When their roots are being cut off, you will see they will not be nowhere to be found.
Okay, now before we conclude, just quickly, you are a member of the APC here in South Africa.
That's correct.
Okay, and earlier as we were talking before we actually went live, we did speak about you guys having two factions within the one APC.
Yes.
My question though is, why is that in South Africa we have two factions of the APC, and yet there's only one faction of the APC in the leading Nigeria where the party is actually heading the country? Could you just enlighten us on that?
You know, politics is about interest. Your own interests and my own interests. If my interests and your interests are not the same, automatically it can call a separation. I believe we are going to come together because some of us who are actually fighting each other, we've been together since 2007, where we started from AC to ACN, ACN to...
Which is even more reason why you should be celebrating now and
celebrating
be
now
united
because
now.
we have the government in Central now, that we should even be gaining something from Nigeria. But one of my arguments to the leaders of the APC South Africa is that, in the first place, why are we fighting? What are you fighting for? We are not getting any money from Nigeria. We are not getting any incentive from Nigeria. They are not sending any material things for us from Nigeria. We are a pioneer member of APC South Africa, and we'll be using our resources, using our money, our timing, our everything. And yet we are here fighting each other. Not that they say, okay, you guys bring one somebody from South Africa to come and be a minister of this or to come and be the head of Parasitata. Such thing is not happening, and yet we are here fighting ourselves. I'll try to meet some leaders of the APC South Africa and say it is high time we need to come together. And I think another thing is we are fighting for the issue of mandate later, which I think the leaders in Nigeria need to look to that as a matter of urgency. When the letter of mandate come, I believe strongly that all of us are going to come together under one umbrella, because some of us suffer since 2007 to bring that party up to this point. And it's not now that we are in Central. When we are in opposition, we didn't fight each other. Why now that we are in Central, the devil is a liar?
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. Unfortunately, we've actually come to the end of the program.
Thank you very
much. And you did clearly say so, that it needs more than 30 minutes for us to discuss such a topic. It's always interesting to speak about what is happening in Nigeria. But thank you for watching. That's all we have time for. Join us again next week, same time, as we give you more insight on the world's current and political affairs. Thank you for watching. Good evening.